take ownership of who you are, take ownership of your gifts, and share them. But I think most of us do this thing where we call out to God, "Dear God, why would you give me a gift that no one wants?" And God responds, "Dear child, the problem's not the gift. The problem is that you're afraid if people find out that you have that gift, they're not going to want you." And so we reject ourselves so that others don't reject us first. As a protective, we play small.
Okay. So, do you want to head into Q&A? Or do you have?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
absolutely.
And I'm noticing the same way I usually have the issue with the vibration and the frequencies happening. I'm hearing it from you too. So, if at any point you freeze or I freeze, we'll just stop and redo it because I don't want any of this to be lost.
Sure.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, no
yeah.
worries.
Okay,
You're
okay.
good.
And I also ask a lot of questions, and it'll start feeling like torture. So if you start feeling like I gotta go, I gotta eat, I gotta do something, you just let
Yep.
me know. It's perfectly
Yep.
fine.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So just to before we move off into all the good stuff, just to confirm, how did Mark come back to? Like, what was the situation with him coming back from the other side?
From this was the walk in, the soul that was 30 plus feet tall walked into
Well,
my body, and it brought me back to life.
okay. So it looked like to them that you had just been out for a little bit and then you came back. There was no ambulance, no hospital stay.
To my knowledge, there was what I've been told in my dreams and my from that experience. I was unconscious for about 22 minutes. But yeah, when the walk-in came in, it brought me back to life, and then and
Oh,
they ended up I ended up getting home about 3 or 4 in the morning.
okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, the first question, I mean, the reason why your NDE is extra interesting to me is the fact of the walk-in. I feel like people who have researched NDEs, we start to understand that a little bit more. We start seeing the patterns. And for me, I mean, you're saying, oh, people thought it was weird. I see nothing weird about any of these stories at all. I just
Right, right.
don't.
Yeah, yeah,
Just not that you're talking to the choir, but for me, it's always just a question of like what's really happening. Like I am very probably, I mean, not too trusting, so I always just wonder what's really happening. But I never question the actual experience ever. But so the 30-foot tall being, like you hear a lot about giants that were either like even on this earth, like if you really start
right.
diving deep, you realize that there have been giants walking this earth. It just is what it is, and they've been trying to hide it, but pretty soon they won't be able to hide that either. But and when people talk about angels, they talk about them being extremely tall. So, and when they talk about certain aliens, they say that they're extremely tall. So there's something like we kind of seem to be the mini-me's, of the universe.
Yeah.
I guess maybe the first question is, can you just describe how the 30-foot tall being looked, if you recall that, and then also how did the angels look?
All right. So the 30 foot beam fall would I and the only way to describe it is like you have a symbol and you see like the pharaoh, like the 40 foot beams that are at Abu Simbel in Egypt, and it was very like a king like a masculine energy, where the angels were about 14, 15 feet tall each. They were what you think of when you think of angels, the female, the wings. And whether that is actually true or not, I don't know. I just think a lot of times they present to us in ways that we will relate to. Because if all of a sudden, like a square starts talking to you, it, or a platonic solid starts talking to you, you might have a harder time with that rather than the angelic female that you have somewhat of a concept of, because it's what we've been taught angels look like. But in the essence of who we really are, we're all geometric patterns. I mean, that is the essence of what we are. But then it informed me like Hedron before it came into my heart, and then that brought me back to life.
Mhm. And do you know who that being was?
I, based on the phone call I got 10 years later and my near experience, it had related to the Melchizedek order.
Okay. So, okay. So how would, because most people don't know what the, Melchizedek, I'm probably gonna say that wrong a million times, what Melchizedek order actually is. So you're saying that Jesus, is he the head of that? Is that what you're saying, that his spirit or whoever Yeshua truly was?
Yeshua,
Yeah.
well, if you read the Bible, it says that Jesus is like Melchizedek. We often will say that a basketball player is like Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan was the greatest. So, in a sense, the Bible implies that the Melchizedek priesthood would be
Even higher.
higher than, quote, Jesus or Yeshua, or the story of Horus. The story of the Immaculate Conception and being placed on the cross has been told by religions and cultures much older than Christianity.
Mhm. Okay, so I mean, if you had to like summarize what the Melchizedek order is, which I mean, like, because I know it's hard, and I know once it gets to a certain point, we all, like you said, we all are one, and I've heard this many times where they're kind of like, well, I can't really explain because we are all one. We're just energy, or like you said, geometry, But in regards to the Melchizedek order, would you say that they are like an alien? Would you say they're an aliens race? Would you say that they are just a spiritually high order of being closer
Yeah,
to
I would just
source?
say it's a spiritually high order of beings that exist beyond the time space dimension. They're often related to Time Lords, and they're often related to the Great White Brotherhood. Um, and that's how Drun Below Melchizedek talks about
Okay. Okay.
it. Yeah.
All right. And what was okay, so the other reason why I'm interested in walk-ins is that I had a family member who was ill, and when they got better, they kept seeing stars, like shooting stars, which to
Hmm.
me probably was something else when the time
Right.
that they were sick in the hospital. And then when they came back, everyone said they were just completely different. And people hear this a lot with other NDEs, like when they come back, it could just be, I've heard stories where people say that we have different aspects of ourselves, and that when you do the NDE, one part has finished their role, and then another aspect of you, so still part of you or your soul, your higher soul, comes in and finishes off the rest of the life with a new mission or purpose. And that could explain why the people seem so different. But with a walk-in, I still, like I said, I'm trying to wrap my brain around it. There are people who say that there's beings that kind of latch on, and they'll come in and they'll be part of, like, it'll be your same soul, but then you also have, I'm sorry, your same spirit, and then you'll have this being that is doing, they're here for a role, um,
Well,
or a complete. Yeah, go ahead.
so you can have attachments to you, but attachments don't are necessarily always beneficial. So so your comment a little bit earlier is like, I think Barbara and Brennan talks about this in her book Hands of Light, where I think it's on page 262, that future lifetimes can be placed in the energetic auric field at time of birth and can be taken on at the completion of a lifetime if an individual so chooses. So that would be like you would reincarnate into the same body, or you could have a lifetime that was planned 5 lifetimes from now, come back into this one, and you'd have, quote, um, you know, future memories, like, which is what you just talked about, where you have different aspects of the self, merging through time, the time space continuum, and coming back in, which is probably the most accurate description of what happened to me. And then, with the walk-in, it's just like another. It's like you have a Cadillac CTS and driving, and
Mhm.
then the car is the same, but you just get a different driver. And there's stories of like eye colors changing, blood types
Yeah,
changing. When they get a different
yeah,
soul. So it's a complete energetic shift. But I definitely I had something, my soul leave, another come in. So whether that was a part of me from the future or that was a different soul, there was some type of walk-in experience that definitely happened.
yes. But in your case, it's not like it's two and one. It's just one. Like, 'cause I know in previous NDEs you mentioned that Mark left and did his afterlife thing.
Right, right.
So yeah. So um,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it is like one left and another one came in and took over.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, it's interesting. Uh, And then I like the fact that you mentioned, because I've heard this too, where people have had NDEs and they come back and their eye color changes. And it's like, to me, that should be something that people like scientists really research, because it's like you can say that the NDE experience is hallucination, or the brain was doing this or that, all that good stuff, but your eye color changing, like, come on, like, that's insane. And I didn't know about the blood change. Yeah, I've always wondered about Rh negative, because I, had to get blood transfusion, so I found out that I was Rh negative. And people, it seems to be one of those mysteries that no matter where you go and how far you dive deep, we're not really finding an answer as to why it's different, the Rh negative
Right, right.
aspect of blood. But maybe that would, if they research that more to find out why these types are changing, it would explain that a little bit
Sure.
more, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your life review, how did you see it exactly?
So, those images that you look at it this way, there's one image, you turn it that way, it's another image, you turn it this way. There's like three or four images, but they're superimposed on top
Mhm,
of each other. And depending on what the light frequency reflects back to you determines what you see.
mhm.
So it's like a holographic table, a holographic image of your life. It's a timeline of your life. And you just, as your eyes move, it just shows you, the things where you kind of needed to work more on: forgiveness, compassion, and love. And it also shows you like areas where you were compassionate, had love, but of course, when a teenager, you're pretty angry most of the time. So
Yeah. All right. And then I think the last part is to get out of that whole section. So you said it's an uh icosahedron?
icosahedron, it's a geometric
Okay.
pattern. That's what the being formed. So like into like the size of a basketball, it formed into an icosahedron the size of a basketball, and it came into my heart. And then
So the
about
Merkaba, is that the same thing or no?
the Merkaba, so like Drunvalo teaches the Merkaba meditation. At some point, he says that the Merkaba, when you get it counter rotating fields of energy spinning around you, that will lock into the icosahedron of the earth, and that would cause us to ascend or move into higher dimensional conscious awareness.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. And then so you were taught during the time that you were in this space, and do you know what this space was? Like, was this just a different dimension or a different level of consciousness? Like, do you have any clue as to where you were?
Oh, most people call it heaven.
Seven. Okay. So you learned about healing through sound, sacred geometry, um, and are these things that came back to you gradually over the years, or is it like you just knew right off the bat as soon as you woke up, it's like, I know how to do
No,
this?
again, it all didn't start till about 10 years later when I got the phone call, at 1:30 in the morning, or just a few years prior, learning about Drunvalo Melchizedek and his work.
Ah, so she was a trigger, this woman.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, the trigger was the videotapes, and then she just kind of validated my whole experience. Yeah, she's
Okay.
definitely a trigger. Yeah.
And um, do you know so about this woman, she calls you at 1:30 a.m. and just gives you a whole, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, people who have lived a life where they've had experiences, because some people really live a life where they are completely materialistic, everything is
Yeah.
exactly as it should be. And when they
Right.
really do, and that's why they think this stuff is crazy. And there are others who have lived and experienced, and again, thank God that there's enough of us that you should not feel crazy. You hear enough of these
Right.
stories, you're like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
you start checking you off the checkbox, like, oh, that's happened, that's happened. Oh, yeah, that's easy. I'm giant. Oh, cool. Duh. You know,
Oh,
why not?
I mean, I've experienced so much stuff. There should be an X-Files movie about me. So yeah.
So
Um,
it seems that some of us definitely have one foot, on the other side and one foot here.
but I think what you're getting at is I did meet her. She is a real person.
Okay.
We met. Um, yeah, we met a couple times, but I think the last time I heard from her was 1999, 2000, and she just I have not heard from her since.
Okay. Well, I mean, sometimes maybe she just finished what she had to do, and the information she had to give.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I noticed. First of all, there's no coincidences. So there's a lot of things that you were saying that are like tying into stuff in my life now that's kind of coming up symbolically. But people don't understand that. I mean, not to say that everybody's an earth angel when this happens, but I love your story about, being in the restaurant and the guy with the tapes and the angel, speaking to you, because this happens. Like, and the people are listening to this and they know they've had experiences like this, they might think it's their intuition as opposed to saying it's an angel speaking to them. But there are times when you literally feel like I have to do this and you have no idea why, you know?
That's very true. And along those lines, it's important to realize that most of most of this Christianity is about your rewards in your afterlife. No, take advantage of God now, today, because you will never have the opportunity to transform the non-physical into the physical. You'll never get to do these things without a body. It's a lot more easier to do this in a body. I know that's people go cringe, but I mean, I know I can assure you that they are lined up all over the planets and galaxies right now to be at Earth right now this time. They are.
And people say this, and I mean, I look like, are you sure? Like,
Oh,
I'm lined up to get
because
out.
because if this in fact happens, that we shift in this fifth dimensional reality, which we believe that it will, that it'll create a domino effect. It'll simultaneously free thousands and thousands of other realities like that. So that's why this is the big ticket right here on this planet. They want to
Free
see it.
free other realities as in what? Like they get free will? Like what does that mean exactly? Or make
Well, a
or
lot of
they
realities. Well, a lot of realities don't have free will. A lot of realities are controlled, and so we're talking about ending like duality consciousness throughout many galaxies throughout the universe.
mm.
If we do finally get this and switch over into 5D, and we're real close.
So are we an experiment? Are we? Because I joke around and say we're the free will experiment, but if I mean maybe I don't know if I'm hearing what you're saying properly, but it sounds like if we evolve, that's what's going to fifth. Eventually,
Right.
that's what right is the evolution. Like so, not being reset again in the flood and all that kind of stuff, but actually moving up and advancing in love. It shows that with free will, that humans or we are able to move forward and closer to God. And if we do that, then you're saying that it opens up the gates, I guess, or possibility for other places that are similar in that same
No,
state.
no, it will not just open. It'll be a domino effect. It'll just be a
Oh
chain
wow.
reaction.
Oh wow.
So to answer your question, I think a little bit better, or try to anyway. Um, it's just God, source is just learning about life and learning about itself through as many possible perspectives out there.
Hmm.
And so everything is entanglement theory has shown there's no separation. What happens on the sun affects us on Earth and vice versa. What you do here on Earth affects people in China. It's entanglement has proven beyond any reasonable doubt that we're all connected. Everything is connected. And the grids, the human energy field, it's connected to the grid of the Earth. Grid of the Earth is connected to the grid of the solar system. It's just everything is, and like you just as above, so below, as within, without. The pictures of like like the thumb matching that of the side section of a tree, and or the brain inside of a neuron looks like the universe, and just they look identical. It's fractals, replicating themselves over and over again.
Mm. Okay, and so now to move into the demonstration of love, right? So you said that the reason why, bad things happen on this earth, why it's so difficult. And I mean, right now, especially with what's happening, overseas and I mean, not like it's new, but we've been at the game of bad and killing and murder for some time, as mankind, at least, this rendition of mankind. We're pretty barbaric in regards to maybe other, beings out there. So you're saying all of this is kind of to push us to, even in the face of these horrors, to choose love and forgiveness.
Well, if you notice what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, and it's started from the beginning of the war. I've never seen this before, but you literally have thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands, thousands and thousands of Russian soldiers just defecting, saying, I'm not participating in this vibration of fear anymore.
Mm.
And we've never seen that anymore. And it's happening, that's happening, on a daily basis. And so I feel that that is what's happening, is that, the vibration of war is just, it's not being supported on the planet anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to say that. I mean, I went into definitely into a funk about what's going on, overseas, and I did realize that there's times that I'll watch that, I'll allow myself to get pulled into that hole, and then I'll start seeing videos of people protesting or doing something just beautiful, and I'm just like crying my eyes out because it's just like they wouldn't be able to show and to stand up and to be that beautiful if they weren't fighting against something so ugly, you know? So I do realize that it's a catalyst. I have to go back to understanding that the bad things are the catalyst for us to prove ourselves, you know.
It's like Trump, who I don't care for too much, mildly. His soul is showing everything that still needs to be healed from the Civil War. His soul is showing everything that needs to be, um, just the hatred and ugliness of humanity that still needs to be healed. So in that sense, if you look at it from a whole perspective, his soul kind of took on a big burden, you know, and that, but our egos, I mean, if you have any common sense to it, it's insanity, but it's the polarities, everything's about polarities. So this is why the masculine polarity is so out of balance right now, because it knows that it's dying. It knows that the feminine is coming in, so it's screaming and kicking and making up all this, just utter nonsense to hold on to power.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the bigger picture of what's, going on.
Yes, yes. And I think people have noticed that is like as we move forward and as we purge, like any kind of purging, there's something gross about it. You know what I mean? There's going to be that part where it's just like really bad, and then it's clean, everything is fine. So we have
Right.
to kind of get through it. Um, okay, and so like when you were talking about love being the kind of the answer, which is kind of what everybody says, love is the key, love is the answer, that's what we got to do. I was bringing me back to the raw material where it's kind of like they're saying that in our current density, I guess the third density, that in order to pass it or surpass it or to graduate, that you have to get into the love chakra, like you have to understand love. And so that confirms that. And then, Yeshua being such an important being and playing such an important role in this life shows you, because everything that we know about him, assuming that is correct, because there's a lot of misinformation and they try to, like you said, you've already said it about the church, how they try to hide everything for whatever reason. Don't know what they're all about, but they do that. If the things that have survived about him are true, he seems to be very loving and very peaceful and very forgiving, right? And try to teach that, as well as, like you said, saying that there's God within us all. There is that God within us all. Um, so my question is, especially again going back to what I just been seeing, of course, overseas and stuff like that. If somebody is in, and I love that you mentioned the Rwanda example as well. So if somebody is in that type situation, what does it say to us about martyrdom? And you hear that a lot too in what's happening in Palestine. Every time somebody dies, all day long people are dying. They keep mentioning, oh, they're a martyr, they're a martyr, they're a martyr. In a world that is this dark, this dangerous, this barbaric, this violent, you're trying to bring in love or demonstrate love and forgiveness. Does that mean that sometimes to win the game, martyrdom is the answer?
No, I think that's a real tricky question, because the conflict of Israel and Palestine is 30 to 40,000 years old. It goes back to the Anunnaki brothers, Vanil and Enos. And the one side wanted the humans to remain slaves to get gold for the Anunnaki. The other side wanted the humans to be free from uh, being held in the role of slavery. And so this, the whole thing, my God's right, your God's wrong. We have God, you have God, you don't have God. We're saved, we're chosen, you're not saved. I mean, it's humanity's insanity at its worst. The land doesn't belong to either side; they belong to it. And I don't get it, but when you talk about being, you're not here to be a martyr to your own joy, but when when groups of people as a collective make agreements and contracts, they usually do it to awaken humanity. And unfortunately, we're pretty dense. The need to be right and how to worship God is at the core of most world conflicts. That's the core of it. And I don't want to get into other agendas of resources and things like that, but religions keep people in fear of each other. They're the enemy. They're the bad guy. But when you kill your brother, that's you. You're destroying you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Uh,
again, you got to, do not focus on that which is seen. The more love and compassion that you have for yourself, because we are a collective, because we're all connected, the more that individuals like you and I heal and we return to wholeness, then it just helps shift the conscious on the planet.
yes,
But
yes.
being a martyr to your own joy is just, but I mean, or being a martyr, just like, well, the original, like jihad, the original meaning of jihad was about going within and to confront and to declare a whole war on your inner demons. It was
Mm,
not about going out and fighting other religions.
yeah.
So, yeah, that's what, religions want this. I understand this. Religions want this mass Armageddon. They want it. I don't want that crap. You don't want that crap. They sure do, though. They're hell bent on it. Let's blow each other up. Woo!
Seriously, it's bad.
Crazy.
And if people only understood, like I like that you mentioned that about that it's really about fighting your own demons. Because I mean, if you really, I told people this all the time. I'm like, if we really stopped and watched ourselves, not even watch ourselves, because you might be acting okay all day long, but just watch your thoughts. If we watch our thoughts on a daily basis, we will realize we need to focus on healing and fixing and clearing and cleansing and purging all day long. You wouldn't have time to worry about anybody else taking something from anybody else or doing this or that. Focus on you, and then that's a whole lifetime right there of clearing.
Yeah, the word apocalypse is French for removing the veil. So not that everything's being destroyed, it's everything's being uncovered. And it just
Yes,
looks kind of
exposed. Yeah. Yes.
exposed.
Yes. So this too shall pass. It is what it is, and like you said, we have to focus on healing ourselves, and that energy, like you said, will just it'll spread. Um, and I think I was watching an NDE recently where so they said something that stayed in my head, and I'm trying to and live that these days. It's just kind of like keep saying, like if you allow the negative to really get into your head and to you focus on that, it'll put you on a negative path. Like you literally, your days will just start to crumble. Murphy's Law.
Right.
But if you continuously just say love, 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 or some people say I am love, like whichever of those two, and you just keep going at that, it's going to like I guess it increases your vibration so that you start to move in that positive, higher possibility for yourself in your life.
Yeah, I
So
do. I always do. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. I love you. Even when I'm out walking around, and it really helps shift your energy and pivot. So,
yes, I'm gonna start doing that and see if it works. And if it does, I'll put out a video. Because it's the little things, right? Like if we all just did that every day, like everybody just say thank you, thank you, thank you. You don't have to say it aloud because you don't want people, locking you away. Like we always gotta be careful of that.
yeah,
But just in your head, just keep saying thank you, I love you, all that kind of stuff. It's gonna feel silly at first, and then you're gonna start seeing your life changing. I'm like, oh, I got it, I got the key. So
right.
yeah. Um, okay, so uh okay, so I'm assuming that you don't believe there's a soul trap. It sounds like you're very much on the higher that this is a
I
soul
don't. I
trap,
don't. I don't
that
believe in what?
that this is a soul trap, or that there is, Earth is a prison planet. All that stuff doesn't resonate with your experience, or does it?
Not. No, not really.
No. Do you
No.
believe in negative aliens or negative energies, or like,
Oh
what
yeah,
do they?
yeah. Dark forces, demonic forces, reptilian ETs. Yeah, they're real. very real.
So if they are real, because I mean, the soul trap kind of incorporates them as, taking advantage of the Earth School or this experience.
They so they keep the fear-based frequencies alive and going. But I think that as a collective, we are starting to break that frequency, break that matrix. I know that many of us reported several months ago that there was like a large timeline that was based in fear and control that seemed to have collapsed on the other and on the other side. So, and there's just so much information coming out, and people are, starting to believe more in this stuff, and people are tired of war. I mean, it's just, it doesn't work anymore.
I just hope that more people become, I guess, just awaken at least to some of these ideas, because if you learn more about the reptilians, I've seen so much evidence that they really are instigating a lot of these wars. Like you see their actual attributes in the people who are pushing it. Maybe not the soldiers, but the ones who are leading these wars are like clearly possessed or being motivated or puppeted by these groups. So when this can be spoken about not just within the spiritual community, but by everybody understanding, because their strength is that people don't know, and that you look crazy talking about it. As soon as you know that
Well,
they're there and you're looking at them, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, they got a back.
the 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 reptilians have made it on Saturday Night Live a few times. It's been
Really?
yeah, they talk
Okay.
about that. Yeah, they do, and it's been on some of the other TV shows, but
Okay, so I'll just ask you, like, what message do you have for all of like humanity?
so my message is that one, you're loved. I mean, you're loved no matter what you do or don't do, and that you're all wonderful human beings with so much to share, that you're born to win and conditioned to lose. You're not sinners, you're not winners. And you know, I cannot emphasize enough to believe in you, believe in your magic, your power, believe in that you do have a voice. Your voice will move mountains if you allow it. Stop being in kindergarten, raising your hand, waiting for someone to say yes, because no matter how many times someone says no to you, refuse to say no to yourself, because you're needed. I mean, if you don't believe you're needed, just turn the TV on for about 5 minutes, and we have to come together. We have to get beyond the separation and realize that we're all one. But yeah, you're all loved. I mean, and God, this thing God is within you right now today. Don't rest in peace, live in peace. So,
Beautiful,
and
beautiful.
yeah, so I'm really excited. I got these new things. They're called my power, Mark Patterson's universal power cards. They should be ready in 2 or 3 weeks, and those will be available on my website as well, which is Mark MRK dash hyphen MRK dash Patterson.com. If you don't include the dash, you'll get a famous jeweler in New York City. So,
All right. Thank you, Mark. It's been a joy.
right, my
And
pleasure.
all right, blessings.
Okay. Listening to you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.